Today I'm in Van Buren County exploring the Portman Nature Preserve. This preserve covers 189 acres that includes a number of habitats which are home to a large number of plant and animal species, many of which are considered rare, threatened, and endangered. With so much to see, let's get started. My first stop is, I believe it's called Mud Lake, and not only is it a beautiful morning out, but we've got some high clouds that will work well in the background. So I'm going to take a couple images here. I can use the trees to frame up my shot. I do like all the dead trees poking out of the water, so those might be a point of interest for some images. Also got this lone tree growing up here. It's not doing the greatest. Is it today's Tom tree? Not too sure yet, but I like the contrast between it and the sky behind it. Can do some great detail shots of that. I worked so hard to line up the blossoms of these at Hager and come over here to Portman, and they're all facing my direction and in bloom. Just come down a side path and have a different view of Mud Lake. And as much as I have talked about not centering images or the subject of interest, in this image I will. And those are the dead trees in the lake. And I'm doing that because I can frame it with the tree on the right and the tree on the left. And both trees act not only as bookends, but their branches create almost a circular frame to that subject of interest in the center. So in this regards, natural framing puts the subject of interest right in the center. I also like how the sun is highlighting probably a vine of some kind on this tree, especially the leaves. And the upper branch that doesn't appear to be healthy is adding framework again, like I did in Cascade, to this image. So in this regard, I have the tree to the left, and although the subject of interest are the dead trees in the background, I'm framing it a little bit different, and the weight of the tree is on the left to help balance out the openness to the right. If you've watched enough of my videos, you know how I love to have clouds in the sky just to add something more of interest. So today I have that, and I will do probably as many pictures as I can out here in the open with the clouds, because they've been so rare sometimes on my shoots. I do like this wide shot, however I don't like the metal stake down below, so if I can't frame that out, I may actually edit that out in my shot. I know this isn't for everybody's taste, but this dead tree up against the sky with the clouds behind it in infrared, I can do so much with that. I just like the contrast between the angled limbs. You got the puffy clouds, the starkness of the tree, the expanse of the sky. You've got that growing vine to the right that adds some more texture and different look to the whole thing as well. For me, this is a really intriguing subject matter. sometimes I feel like I'm on some expedition in search of something rare, which I kind of am. And in this case, it's these budding water lilies, perhaps. But you can see they aren't in full bloom yet, but their buds are poking up and ready to open. So I might take a few pictures here. And notice I'm low to the ground because I want that expanse behind both of them. And I also just want a closer shot of them. And I don't want it top down, I want it more from level with them. Across from Mud Lake and the water lilies is this patch of color. So don't forget to look both ways when you're on a path, back and forth. Never know what you might see. Now with this one, there's a pile of dead brush over to the left. So obviously I'm just going to stay in this area. Probably will take a vertical just to get the blooms at the base of the image. And then the barren trunks dotted throughout to give it some balance. The trails here at Portman Nature Preserve are well marked, and they lead you to different areas of the preserve. And right now I'm on a woodland walk, and I'm just taking a few pictures here and there, details of this habitat. And I like the two fallen limbs that are crisscrossing the diagonal lines, the leading lines, and then there's just a couple little shoots of plants growing up in between them. So again, just a detail shot, morning light on them. While you're on the path, and I do recommend staying on the path, because this area in particular is dealing with erosion issues. You can still take some images from the path, looking across the lake and getting some of the trees in the foreground and trees in the background. I've talked on previous videos about photographing paths and try not to center them. Rather, step off to the side, let the path be on a diagonal, and in this case, including the little plant on the right that's highlighted by the sun, and it has the dark backdrop of the tree trunks behind it. Just add some interest to your image instead of centering the path and nothing on the sides. Here's some blooms that are starting to fade, and that's okay. You can still take photos of them. Shows how fleeting their life is, as well as our own. And when done in infrared, it just kind of enhances that ethereal quality. Not everything has to be pretty. Not every image has to turn out, but the ones that have character to them, substance to them, usually are more intriguing to look at as well. Anytime you're transitioning between habitats, it always makes for an interesting image before you cross over to that other habitat. So for example, in front of me is another lake, but I'm not quite there yet, but you can see the transition. The trees have thinned out, you can see more of the sky, but I just like the look of the transition. reach that habitat, it's another vantage point to take an image of it. In this case, there's a boardwalk that walks along the space, and boardwalks to me are just the same as paths. So I'm walking along the boardwalk, wanting to take pictures of this body of water, but now there's no trees. I've got clouds, but I don't have anything to break up the horizontal lines. So I'm going to move. A couple little trees and they're dead. And on the right side is a little boat that's been abandoned and is now filled with organic matter. So those will be my two anchors or bookends for my composition, at least for right here. Using one of the preserve's handy signs, I see them at Lime Lake, and I've come to this end of the boardwalk and I found another tree, and I like this one better. As I kneel down, it's in the foreground and then the other trees are in the background, so you've got that depth that I was lacking before, as well as breaking up that horizontal line. I remember coming across ferns at Weggy Natural Area in Lowell in the early spring before they unfurled. So you had these curled up plants, and I just found them intriguing to look at their shapes. I didn't realize they were ferns until they unfurled and filled out. Tree trunks, whether dead or alive, work really well in contrast to organic matter because they provide a dark line amidst the highlights. They also add a difference in texture. Now, who doesn't like a diverging path? I've had to back up on the trail a little bit so that the tree in the center is not dead center in my composition. And I also am trying to crop out the metal stake to the right. And there's also identifying marks on the tree way back in the right trail. I may edit those out, we'll see how they turn out. But here again is don't center the path, don't center the tree, because that's what people will look at immediately. Instead, put the path off to the side, and then it adds some intrigue, like where do those paths go? Again, not to everybody's interest, but I stopped to take a picture of this. Some roots that were mangled looking, and grass and other plants just starting to grow up between it. It's intriguing, it's organic, it's abstract, and it's full of texture and character. So I just spotted this, and I think I saw it at Weggy Natural Area as well. And it's some sort of fungus, I believe. Here I've come upon a bunch of ferns that are fully grown and furled. Now, while I can take a shot of the group of them, and that might be somewhat interesting, what I'm also taking a shot of is just a couple of the ferns with this little sassafras sapling next to it, and then the trunk of the tree between them, because it just gives a contrast between the shapes of the leaves and the types of plants. have to say this little walk through the ferns and other growing plants has been very fragrant in a good way, not super sweet. I don't know which plants that are flowering are projecting that scent, but it's been an added bonus to this walk. I don't know what happened in this area, whether it's oak wilt or some other disease or maybe a windstorm, but a lot of the trees in here have been cut down. So it's looking very barren and in progress of changing to something else. To remember it by, though, taking a picture of this tree in the foreground, because it seems to be hanging on a little bit, but then capturing the depth of the destruction in the background. I do see scorch marks on some of these fallen limbs and trunks, so maybe it was a prescribed burn of some kind. But what I also see are signs of life. And so taking images of those new young plants against the scorch marks is a good contrast, and it tells a story of life going on. And that being said, coming back to that tree that I photographed before, I think that's today's tom tree because it appears to be one of the older ones here. Certainly not doing the best, not off by itself, but it does have that character that I look for when photographing trees. Portman Nature Preserve is just one of a number of nature preserves protected by the Southwest Michigan Land Conservancy. For more information about what they do, check out swmlc.org. Thanks for exploring with me. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you liked it and learned something new. If you did, consider subscribing to my channel and getting notified when a new video posts. And I hope to see you out on the trails.